I guess you know what this is about. I'm not going to stutter on each word, but I want to talk about stuttering and and what it's all about, and also from the inside how we can get a perspective of what's going on inside, why it's happening, and how we should deal with it. So, 1 second. Okay. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. We don't normally talk about stuttering, but then when there's somebody who does stutter, it's something that people, just want to hear more about. So why do I want to talk about it now? So this month was the International Stuttering Awareness month, and last week was Awareness Day, and there are lots of movies and talks and articles about stuttering, and it's the first time I've been to any event like this, and it was mind-blowing seeing people who are very similar to me share their experiences, and and a lot of it sort of matches in in my experiences, and I know that the general public are very unaware of stuttering, when stuttering historically being a taboo subject. People don't really mention it. Even people who stutter don't mention it, and sometimes their parents don't talk about it. So time has come to share with you what it means to have a stutter from my perspective, and I'm in a good situation. Okay, I'm a good person to talk about this, and I want to by doing this obviously it's nice. It's good to hear something new. Understand what how best to communicate with someone who stutters. And again, it could be your kids, could be a parent, it could be a cousin, it could be a friend, it could be a co-worker. How about that? And it's important to understand what their experience as well. So I want to talk about what is the stuttering. So apart from it being a word that people who stutter have a problem saying, which is, I guess, the idea of the word, it's a speech disorder, which I'm reading this from what I copied from online dictionary. A speech disorder characterized by involuntary repetition of sounds, syllables, or words, prolongation of sounds, so saying the same sound a lot of times, or interruptions in speech, also known as blocking, where basically the whole vocal system just freezes. It can be a vowel, like A, or consonant like a T, just getting stuck, and like the whole body just freezes. Stuttering is also called stammering, same thing. In Hebrew it's called gimgum. It's probably got a name in all languages. People who stutter know exactly what he or she would like to say, but they have trouble producing the normal flow of speech, what sometimes is called fluent speech. 1 second, Mohan, are you recording this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So someone who stutters knows exactly what what he or she would like to say, but it's hard to be fluent. They have trouble being fluent. These speech disruptions can be accompanied by some struggling behaviors like eye blinks, or lips tremoring or shaking, tapping of feet. Could be head twitches, and worse and more extreme actions. Stuttering often makes it difficult to communicate with other people, which affects the person's quality of life and interpersonal relationships. I would like to show a clip of a you know what? I'm not going to show a clip yet. That's next. First of all, I would like to sort of share a few facts about stuttering. A few numbers. Always good to see some numbers. So, 1% of the population, world population, has a stutter. Might be more extreme or less extreme, but those are the numbers. Males are 4 times more likely to stutter than a female. I don't know the reasons for that, but there we go. Stuttering is a man thing, but that's that. And it normally starts at a very young age. Normally, I guess, when kids are sort of learning to speak, between ages 2 and 5. It can also start later on. In fact, I heard a talk by someone who started stuttering at the age of 15. So everyone's different. And yes, it's genetic. It's not genetic like certain diseases are genetic, but it's genetically influenced. My father stuttered, and you can understand how there was a lot of stuff going on there when he saw me stuttering. Whoops, going the wrong direction. And I hope you agree with me here. People who stutter aren't stupid, okay? At first impressions, they don't look so normal. But people who stutter are as intelligent as their peers. They just have issues speaking, okay? So let me introduce you to my stutter. Before I start, I'm going to show a clip, which is not me, but it could be me, and it was very much what, sort of thing I used to experience. Okay, so this is taken from a movie recently screened of sort of how young kids, there was a camp made for kids who stutter and a coping thing, so not too relevant why it was filmed, but I want you guys to see this. This is a kid introducing himself.
Hello? Sit down, relax, let's be chill. So like, I'm God. Hey guys.
Yes. Okay, so I guess you guys weren't doing this, but I timed how long Guy took to introduce himself. He took 25 seconds. I've beaten that, okay? I can do longer. And I've been through this hundreds of times, and this is not a rare thing. Most people who stutter have specific issues, saying their name. It's something you can't avoid, right? So I want to talk about my story of my stutter. And when you hear my story, just think, multiply it by around 70 million. Even though every stutter is different, the life experience are very similar. So I'm Hayden. You know my name, so I'm not going to stutter. Okay, I'm sorry. So disappointing, but you got another one before. I've been stuttering for a bit over 45 years. At the age of 3, I began stuttering, getting stuck and repeating syllables or words. Again, that was a long time ago. I don't recall being very aware youngest of 5 brothers, I did have to put up with some teasing. Over time, my stutter changed, and due to stress from the fear of stuttering, my stuttering actually got worse. I often got very stuck saying the same words, saying some words frequently, blocking or repeating for tens of seconds. And when you're in a bad run, it just gets worse. You know, you get stressed, you're going to stutter, and you do stutter, and you stutter more than you would have done if you wouldn't have got stressed. And, you know, my stutters were accompanied by strange facial expressions, you know, which is sort of, I guess, nature's way of trying to get the word out. If I, you know, do this or do that, you know, maybe it will come out. You know, it's subconscious. And during school years, you know, I was very aware of my stutter, and it caused me to become pretty incompetent socially, which I guess helped me become a maths nerd as well. So, you know, there's a positive side there. But it can be cured, right? You know, we hear about speech therapy. Just go to a speech therapist and, you know, do a few sessions and it can be cured, right? Well, not really. So, you know, I just want to explain to you what speech therapy is about. The more traditional speech therapy. They sometimes help, but mostly temporarily. So, what was I taught? Okay, this was, again, 40 years ago. I was taught to speak slowly, take a deep breath, and think before speaking. Okay? As in any training for fixing behavior, you know, stutters are rewarded for fluent good speech. So, you know, Hayden, that was really good. You said that really nicely, you know. Or Hayden, oh, you're sounding good this morning. You know, I might have had a good morning. But what does that mean? That means that the opposite is bad. It means a stutter, when it comes, and it is going to come, is bad, and it's disapproved on. It's bad speech. I shouldn't be doing it, right? And it builds up immense pressure to speak without stuttering, but it's not necessarily in control. And the slow speech and deep breaths and the thinking before speaking, they don't work. The stutter takes over. And then, you know, when the next stutter comes, when the next stutter comes around, when the next stutter comes around, it's deemed as a failure, as a bad thing. And worst of all, there's a shame. You know, you feel ashamed of speaking in not a great way. And there's a knock-on effect, there's a follow-on effect. Okay, so being nervous of stuttering causes me to stutter more. Being ashamed of stuttering causes me to avoiding stutter. Oh, hold it, 1 second, that's quite a good side effect. Avoiding stutter is quite a good thing, but how can someone avoid having a stutter? Hey, you know, I've got a stutter, how could I avoid it? Well, there are a few things which are very, very possible techniques. Number one, you know, when I feel I'm going to stutter, I can switch words to say something that's easier to say. So instead of saying great, I can say fine, or things like that. Whatever I feel is going to bring a stutter on, I can switch it to something which I feel might be more fluent. This doesn't always work, and sentences can come out very jumpy and incorrect, and sometimes complete gibberish. Okay? Number two, I can keep silent. I'm not going to stutter if I keep silent, right? Or I can hide. Okay? If I hide, and I'm not around, then I'm not stuttering either. So let's take another look at the benefits of therapy. Okay, so after continued therapy, week in, week out, year in, year out, therapy actually caused me to become more stressed about my stutter, causing me to stutter more severely, and blocking on words. And basically, you know, therapy is for fixing broken speech. And, you know, very recently I just asked a question, you know, is it my speech that needs fixing, or is it society that needs to be more used to listening and accepting speech that's of someone stuttering and not labeling it as abnormal speech? Growing up, you know, I went through years of speech therapy, attempting to be fixed, speaking in elastic speech. It just made me stutter slowly. Had weird thing I had to wear around my neck for a certain time, which was both terrible and hilarious. It measured my rate of speech, and it was wired to a control center that sat in my pocket, which beeped if I went over a certain rate. So what basically happened was that I had to stutter loud enough that people could hear me over the beeping of this machine. Okay, not such a successful machine. I tried looking it up on Google, and it was such a failure that it's not even on Google. So there we go. So that's for traditional speech therapy. One second, okay. I'm sorry. I'm just going to jump a slide. 1 second. Okay, I'm jumping around slides a bit, I apologize. So we mentioned before that one of the techniques of not stuttering is avoiding a stutter. So I call this flying under the radar. Lots of stutterers avoid situations in which they stutter, sometimes up to a point where their stutter can go undetected. Well, what does this mean? So children who stutter will avoid at any cost to be in a read out loud session in school. So either they time their visits to the bathroom during school lessons, or they completely miss a lesson where they fear that they might be out, speaking, they might be chosen to speak. This in turn causes them to get behind in academic learning and get low grades and not go where they need to go in life. And it doesn't, these people can also stop speaking at home as well, and parents and siblings will not know that their kid has a stutter. It doesn't stop there. Someone I know, very close to me, who audibly hardly stutters, admitted to me that when he chose his branch of profession as a lawyer, he chose not to do litigation, which is being in court, because he wouldn't have to do public speaking. He avoids taking a bus, knowing that he'll stutter terribly when asking the driver the cost of the journey, and he gets the sweats when he needs to ask a question in a shop. He plays a game of word switching continuously, replacing words that would trip him up to an easier word that will keep him fluent. This person is 72 years old, and he's been living with these challenges his whole life. But remember, due to his avoidance techniques, his stutter goes undetected to the outside. In fact, most of his friends and acquaintances wouldn't label him as someone who stutters, but he's living with it the whole time. And so you might want to ask, do I avoid things? Well, yes. When, a few examples. When I order food as a family and I need to give my name, and I stutter badly on my name, I frequently give my wife's name. I avoid introducing myself to new people and just hope that they'll figure out my name from hearing other people talking to me. I frequently have to do without mushrooms in a salad at the salad bar at work because I stutter too much on the word in Hebrew. Very odd. And I do feel quite a loser when I do this. I don't want my stutter to rule my life, but rather I want my life to rule my stutter. Some more stories, okay? So, I want to share with you some of my experience, literally war stories. So, I emigrated to Israel at the age of 20, a very Zionist young lad. My dream being living in my country and serving my country. As soon as possible after emigrating, I started the enrollment process in the army. Unfortunately, I stuttered terribly in my first interview process. In fact, so much so that they decided to give me an extremely low physical profile, meaning I will not be able to serve in a combat unit. I was completely devastated. I fought the decision, and by miracle was given a referral to an ear, nose and throat doctor, which is, I guess, the nearest the army had to a speech therapist. When I met the doctor, I experienced a second miracle, and I was completely fluent. I didn't stutter at all. Something in my mind made a switch. When the doctor asked me to explain the strange report of terrible stuttering, I just said I must have been a little nervous in my first interview, and he overruled the recommendation. However, it wasn't pure sailing. Serving in the Armored Corps, I was a fighter in a tank, and during active duty in Lebanon, I had to keep a lookout for enemy anti-tank rockets being fired at me. We were drilled into knowing that we have a split second to react when we spot a rocket. My role as the loader, I was one with my head out, and I had to shout "rocket, rocket" into the internal communications. And well, I stuttered on this, and in practice, in training, I kept on stuttering, saying "rocket, rocket." And I know that when I'm talking to someone, my listeners can afford to wait a few seconds here and there for my stutter to come out, but Russian-made Saga rockets will not wait for my stuttering rocket warning, and any reasonable stutter could have meant life and death for me and my crew. So I had many a sweaty nightmare worrying about this, about what will happen if and when, but luckily the Hezbollah terrorists chose not to try their luck with my tank. Thank God. Now, so where am I now? So I've spoken about how I grew, my experiences growing up. We've seen someone else stutter, where I said was similar in my experience, been through speech therapy, been through a lot of things. So throughout my life, I fight to make sure my stutter doesn't rule my life, but rather I rule my stutter. I can have weeks or months or even years where my stutter is quite moderate. Then I can have months or one conversation where I'm extremely non-fluent in my speech, stuttering a lot. I always stutter when I introduce myself to new people. I, like several stutterers, frequently stutter when saying my name. I can't avoid it. If I'm lucky, I can say my name with nearly no stutter, but sometimes it can take more than half a minute to say it, causing me to lose my breath, get severely embarrassed, and hoping the world will swallow me up. So you can imagine calling customer services, the odd job guy, things like that is sometimes very challenging. And I do practice avoidance techniques sometimes, as I mentioned above. And, I want to ask myself a question, and everyone a question. Should I fix my stutter so that someone normal doesn't need to hear my stutter? Should I have had to do, and I did, 2 months of speech therapy to calm my stutter temporarily before I looked for my current job, so that my interviewers get a good impression of me? Should I need to use my wife's name when I order food at a takeaway because I don't have the energy to go through the pain and embarrassment of saying my name? Should I avoid introducing myself to new workmates and hope they know my name from Zoom meetings? And should I have to practice my 2-line introduction at Server Guild when I first joined so that I didn't stutter? Doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing, in the army, at home, on the phone, at work, at a party, it's always there. And I'm not alone. Okay, there are another 70 million people out there who stutter, who face the same challenges. But there are some welcome changes coming along, I think. It seems that speech therapy is starting to change. Therapists are learning to help stutterers cope with having a stutter and not tell them that stuttering is bad, and let's say it's okay to stutter. But this is only going to work when we're in a positive environment where stuttering is not looked down upon and it's okay to do. That means that bullying of kids in school that stutter must stop. Adults should laugh at other stutterers, and video editors should not edit out stutters of famous people from videos before being broadcast. And president-elects i.e. Joe Biden, should not be mocked by their opponents when they stutter in a presidential debate. And also he shouldn't have to edit his own videos, when going live. I'm looking forward to the day when it will be normal to have a stuttering president, a high school teacher, or even, you can laugh, but a news reporter. We're living in a fast-moving world where we expect responses to things immediately. Hey, we have timeouts on calls to our servers. We have fallbacks when there's no answer. I'm sorry, but I can't live with timeouts and fallbacks in my speech, and I don't want my communication to be deemed a failure when it takes too long. So I think on behalf of all people who stutter, just, people, when you're listening to someone who stutters, just keep on listening, and please don't pity. Just listen and listen and listen, and don't try and guess what we're going to say because you're probably wrong. And don't tell us to stop and take a deep breath. Just keep on listening. It's just our way of talking, I'm afraid. That's it. Thank you. Got a bit of time for questions.
Thank you so much, Hayden, for sharing and for educating. I think it was beautiful. Thank you.
I have a statement. You're a fucking legend, mate.
Oh, I was going to send my mum that recording. Now I can't. You're out.
That was great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Hayden, for your story and challenges. Thank you for sharing with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.